Boston, Charleston, South Carolina gets mad when I say that. So there's some pretty good reasons for us to make that claim here. First of all, George Washington grew up here. A little bit later, I'll show you some of his land just over the river in Stafford County. George Washington spent most of his childhood and his teenage years walking these same city streets, even walking with them. And then during the Civil War, 4 major battles were fought in about 15 miles of where we're now. If we had been in this part of Charlotte Street on the morning of December 11th, 1862, from right here, we'd have been able to see the smoke from 150 Union cannon shelling us from just across the river in that ridge of Stafford Heights. So there were shells from both sides landing all over the city that whole weekend. I'll tell you all about the Battle of Fredericksburg. A city was established almost 300 years ago, 295 years ago, 1728. George II was the king at that time. Fredericksburg takes its name from King George II's oldest son. Here's Prince Frederick. Frederick was the Prince of Wales, so he was next in line. He was supposed to have been the next king, the great delight of about everyone who knew Frederick. He was killed, and Prince Frederick was killed in a tennis accident. Tennis balls were hard. Americans remember Frederick's oldest son. Frederick's son was King George III from the Revolution. They got started here with about 50 acres and 8 streets in 1728. 8 original streets of the city are named for other members of George II's family. Right now we're on Charlotte Street. Charlotte was Frederick's wife, the princess. Other end of the next block, along the riverbank, there is what we call Sophia Street. She was George's sister. I know you want to pronounce that Sophia. That's correct. The main street behind us is Caroline. Caroline was George's wife, the queen. They had 2 daughters, Amelia and Princess Anne. There was another son named William. George Street was named for the king. A lot of Americans don't know that these were Germans. George I, George II, Frederick didn't even speak English. That was the German House of Hanover. This Hanover Street, 1 block to the right. They shouldn't speak German either, they spoke French. Are you with me so far?
Yep.
God save the king. The Visitor Center building there is built in 1824 as a candy store. In the early 1800s, a candy store part was on the street level. Candy maker Anthony Hale has lived upstairs with his family on the top floors. And so the shopkeepers lived around here until about the middle of the 20th century. They owned the buildings in those days and just lived and worked in the same place. The morning commute was walking down the stairs. People still live in the apartments above the shops downtown today. It seems like everyone's outside, so you know we've become another suburb of Washington, D.C. here. There's about a third of the workforce in this area today commutes 120 miles a day. People have their cars and send that rush hour traffic on I-95 for 2 hours each way. That's on a good day to get to work in Washington and Northern Virginia around those weekday rush hours. For around $500 a month, you take the train, Interrail service, leaves us down the street there, but that still takes 2 hours. Well, they were. Okay, started here, so start the tour. I'm gonna cross Caroline Street, but we'll go back down this way later. I find some good shops and good restaurants for down the street here later on. But I think that I think any tour of this city should start on the Rappahannock River. That's a body of water about the sea, outside Old House on the driveway, the other end of the next block. The river is the reason that Fredericksburg is here in the first place. For the city's first 150 years, it was a seaport. In fact, this is once one of the busiest inland river ports in the colonies. If you can believe that, at one time we served up to 30 ships a day from all around the world here. The Chesapeake Bay is about 100 miles to the southeast of us on the Rappahannock. Up to the late 1800s and the early 1900s, this little river was navigable all the way to Fredericksburg from the Atlantic Ocean.